If you're looking for an inexpensive and relatively easy way to achieve a much more aggressive stance to your 2019 or newer Sierra 1500, excluding the AT4 and Denali models, this MotoFab 3-inch front, 2-inch rear leveling kit with upper control arms is going to be a great solution for you. Now, this will be a good choice for the Sierra owner who wants to make a statement with their truck stance to fit a bigger tire or clear hazards better if they're going off-road, whether it's just fire trails or a bit more of a challenging trail. But they also don't want to break the bank when doing so. It also includes more than the typical spacer lift thanks to the addition of the front upper control arms, so it will maintain some solid drivability and maintain that stock feel if you do want to add that extra height but don't want to mess around with the comfort that you currently have. Now, this will be more aggressive than the average 1 or 2-inch spacer leveling kit, increasing the overall ground clearance and adding some extra height in the front to level out the stance, which is going to eliminate most of that rake in the hood for a more even appearance. Now, with that, you will be able to squeeze in a 33-inch tire inside the wheel well pretty comfortably without any need for modifications. Now, this will come with all the necessary components to do so without swapping out your strut, which would noticeably change your ride. Most of the time it would be a little bit stiffer as to where this is going to give you that extra height without replacing any of your factory components. Now, you are replacing your upper control arms with some new and improved ones in this kit. These will be correctly angled for the taller 3-inch lift in the front, which will center the wheel in the wheel well and help with alignment, which in turn will help take some unnecessary stress off of the other components for an increased lifespan and a smoother ride. Now, the front strut spacers are made of a billet aluminum construction. They're going to be solid and they're going to be strong. Now, I do want to note here that the lift spacer size is not 1-to-1. This will measure out to roughly 2 inches, but with the spring compression and the suspension geometry, the end result will be 3 inches of lift in the front. Now, the rear, however, under the leaf spring will be true to size at 2 inches, made of a thick steel material, and it will come with longer U-bolts for the leaf spring to accommodate that additional height. Now, the most complex out of the whole kit will be the tubular upper control arms made of a 1 1/4-inch DOM steel tubing. They're going to be angled correctly for that correct alignment, and in addition to the other components, everything here is going to have a strong black powder coat for corrosion and rust resistance. Now, the new ball joint here, as you can see, is greasable. You can maintenance this over time, and on the other side, this is going to come with OE-style bushings and pre-installed sleeves, so you get a refresh out of your upper control arms. This will come in at about $550, which is right in the middle of the road for this kind of lift or leveling kit. Now, this will be more of an entry-level style kit, but the control arms are going to take it a step further than some other basic choices, allowing you that extra correction to make your truck more capable while keeping it to the basics still and on a budget. Now, we'll also allow you to keep most of your factory components if you just like the ride and want the additional height. And again, don't want to get too involved within your suspension. You just want an easy solution to gain that extra height for your truck. Install will be a more challenging one at a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, considering that you can use some pretty basic hand tools here for the job and it won't require a spring compressor, but I do recommend some experience with suspension before tackling this. Now, it will take a good amount of time considering that you're doing the front and the rear, so I would say about 4 hours all said and done with the right setup and the right tools. Now, at this point, we can head over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown, whether you're doing this at home or you're just curious about the install. So that's going to wrap it up for what I have to say. Let's go ahead and jump into the install.
Tools required for this install include a couple different size impact guns, a ratchet, a hammer, a rubber mallet, 18 and 21 millimeter ratcheting wrenches, an extension, a 3/16 Allen socket, an 8 millimeter Allen socket, a 21 millimeter swivel socket, 10, 17, 18, 19, 21, and 22 millimeter sockets, a pry bar, and pole jacks or jack stands.
What's up, guys? Today we're installing a lift kit on our Sierra, so let's get started. So starting with the front, the first thing we need to do is take a 10 millimeter socket to remove all of the brackets holding in our brake lines, ABS sensor, and our brake pad wear sensor. So now we're going to start on the rear facing side of our knuckle. We're going to remove this 10 millimeter bolt that holds in our brake line. We can come down to our brake pad wear sensor. Don't think this is going to be an issue. You can unplug this if you have one. You're just going to slide this gray locking tab up and then press down on it to pop that out. And then we're going to get the one on the back of the knuckle too. It's a little bit hard to see. And then once I pull the bolt out, I'm just going to move the bracket out of the way and put the bolt back so we don't lose it.
So now we can take that same 10mm socket to remove the brake line bracket at our upper control arm and the forward facing one on our knuckle.
Next we can remove our tie rod end. We have a 21mm nut. I'm going to get a 21mm socket on. And then we can take a hammer and strike the side of the knuckle here to break up some rust. And then we can just tap from the bottom to pop it out. Now you don't want to hit very hard on the bottom here because you don't want to mushroom this stud. So we'll start off with that 21mm socket. And then I'm just going to take a hammer, give some taps to the side of the knuckle here, and then once we've got it broken up a little bit, a couple light taps on the bottom.
Now we can come to the bottom of our lower control arm and remove our two 15mm bolts holding our lower strut mount in place and the 18mm nut holding our sway bar end link.
15mm socket for our two lower strut bolts. Now I've got a pole jack supporting the weight of the lower control arm here. Now next we can disconnect our upper control arm ball joint. I'm going to loosen up this 18mm nut. I'm going to get it to where it's hand tight, and we're going to leave it on there a few threads, and then we can tap the side of the knuckle with the hammer again until that breaks free. And then we'll get a pry bar on the upper control arm to bring it down so that we can fully remove that nut. Just put that on a few threads, and then just grab your hammer, start giving it some taps. And then once that pops free, you can go in with your pry bar and remove the nut and disconnect the ball joint. Next we can go to the top of our strut and remove our three nuts up here. First we're going to have to pop off this clip. It's onto our studs. So we can just pop that up and out of the way. And then you can grab your 18mm ratcheting wrench and remove these nuts. And now we can fully remove our strut. So now the last thing we need to remove in our front suspension is our upper control arm. We have a bolt and nut on each side of the control arm. I'm going to take a 21mm swivel socket and 21mm wrench to loosen up these bolts and remove that control arm. So now I'm going to get my socket on the bolt side and my wrench on the nut side and remove these bolts. And now we can just slide those bolts out and remove our upper control arm. And then you can do the same thing on the other side.
So now we can begin to assemble our strut spacer and mount it to our strut. We have our 3 Allen bolts that we're going to be threading into the threaded holes, and then we can use our nuts to attach it to the studs on our strut. So now we have 3 threaded holes on our spacer. Those are the holes that these bolts are going to be going through. So we're going to flip it over, and I'm going to take an 8mm Allen socket and start threading those in to the threaded holes. And I'll do the same thing with the other 2 holes. And then you can throw an impact on the other side of that socket and run these through. And then we can bring over our strut. Now the holes that don't have the studs are what's going to be sliding over our factory studs. Now these aren't evenly spaced, which means there's only one way the spacer can go on, so you can't get it sideways or backwards. So it doesn't work that way, doesn't work that way, slides on that way. So then once that's in place, we can get our nuts and drop those onto the studs and use a 17mm socket to start your threads. And then you can throw that 17mm socket on an impact gun and tighten down your nuts. And then do the same thing for your other strut, and we'll get these onto the truck. So now the first thing we're gonna do is install our new upper control arm. Now with the new bushings in here, it is a bit of a tight fit. So I'm gonna get one hole lined up and get a bolt through to give me a pivot point, and then we can wrestle the other side in. You can use a rubber mallet to tap on the control arm to get it in if you have to. Now once you have your bolts through, you can thread your nuts onto the other side.
Once you have your hardware in, you can grab your upper control arm alignment tool. You're going to be placing this between this bump stop and your upper control arm. And then with that in place, you can grab your 21mm socket and wrench. Now if you have a second set of hands, it would be a good idea to have them hold that in place for you.
And then we can remove our alignment tool.
So now we can grab our strut with our spacer and slide it up into place.
And I'm just gonna thread our nuts on top. And then we can go down to our bottom mount and reinstall our 2 bolts.
Next, we can worry about getting our lower strut bolts up through the lower control arm and into our strut.
And now we can take a 15mm socket to tighten down our lower strut bolts. Now we're gonna go to our upper strut mount and take an 18mm ratcheting wrench to tighten down our 3 nuts. Now I like to start with the front 2 and tighten those fully down, because then that'll pull the back stud up and you can twist that on by hand, since that's a lot harder to get to, and you don't have to sit there ratcheting on the hard to get to one that long.
I'm just gonna reach back there, twist that the rest of the way on by hand. And then slip my ratcheting wrench behind the fender liner. Next, we're gonna attach our upper control arm ball joint to the knuckle. Now, I've got a pry bar up under the lip of our upper strut mount. I've got a microfiber on our upper control arm just so that we don't scratch it. So then I'll raise the knuckle up into place. Start prying. And once you have that in place, you can get your washer and your nut onto the bottom of the stud. And now you can grab a 19mm socket and tighten down that nut. So now we're in the home stretch on the front. So we're gonna reinstall our tie rod end and then start reinstalling all of our brake line and ABS line brackets. Thread your nut on, take a 21mm socket to tighten that down. And then we'll just go right up above it, remove that bolt from our knuckle, slide our bracket into place, and then take a 10mm socket to tighten that down. Next, we can come up to our upper control arm. We have a new Allen head bolt that we're going to be threading through our bracket and into our arm. So we'll raise that bracket up into place, get our thread started. And then we're going to grab a 3/16 Allen socket and tighten that down. Now we can hop to the back side of our knuckle and reinstall our two brackets. You can plug your brake pad wear sensor back in if you have one, and then we can reattach our sway bar end link. And then just make sure that that pin is in its locating hole. Take a 10mm socket, tighten those down. And then once you have all of that done, we can go at our sway bar end link. Now you want to make sure that your studs are lined up with the holes in the lower control arms on both sides, because once you tighten this down on one side, you won't be able to lift up on the sway bar to get the other side in. So once you got them lined up, you can grab a pry bar, pry down on the sway bar, and get that through the lower control arm. Thread your nut on, and then take an 18mm socket, tighten it down. And then you can repeat the whole process on the other side. Now moving on to the rear, the first thing we need to do is remove the bolt holding in our lower shock. We're gonna pop that out, and then we're gonna have to lower down the axle, remove all these U-bolts to get our spacer installed. So I've got a 21mm socket and wrench to remove our lower shock bolt. So now before we start removing things, you're gonna wanna make sure you have either a pole jack if you're doing it on a lift, or just a floor jack under the axle if you're doing it on the ground. You wanna support the weight of this axle because we're gonna remove the lower shock bolt, and then we're gonna remove all of the nuts on our U-bolts. And at that point, the axle will just fall if you don't have anything supporting it. So we're gonna start with that lower shock mount with a 21mm socket and wrench. And you can remove your bolt. And then I'm gonna switch over to a 21mm deep socket to remove our 4 bolts. then just get a hand on the bracket before you remove your last one. And now with everything unbolted, you can just push up on your U-bolts to remove them. So now with everything disconnected, we're gonna start lowering down our axle so that we can get our lift block into place. Now there's a shorter and a taller side of the lift block. The shorter side is gonna be facing the front of the truck. Now with that being said, you can lower your jack or your pole jack down to get a nice gap between your axle and your leaf spring. And then you can kind of push down on your axle and up on your leaf spring to get this into place. And then you just want to make sure that your pin on the bottom goes into the hole, and the same thing on the top. And once you have that all straightened out, we're just going to start raising up our axle, put some tension on that. And then we can grab our new U-bolts. On the back, there's a bracket here, so you want to make sure that you're in between the bracket and the axle with your U-bolt. And then we can go underneath, put our bracket back on, and install our new washers and nuts. And now we'll just get a hand on top of our U-bolts to hold them in place. Slide our bracket back on. And then we can start threading on our new washers and nuts. Then once you have all of these threaded on, you can take a 22mm socket and tighten these all down in a crossing pattern, making sure you tighten them down evenly. Now once you have that in place, you can reinstall your shock. So we'll line that up with the lower mount. Now we're not quite lined up yet, so we're gonna have to go up on our axle. I need just a little bit more here. And once you have that hole nice and lined up, you can slide your bolt in. Now you're going from the inside out with the bolt. Thread your nut on the other side, and then take that 21mm socket and wrench, tighten that down. And then you can repeat that process on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the MotoFab 3-inch front, 2-inch rear leveling kit with upper control arms for your 2019 and newer Sierra 1500, excluding AT4 and Denali. Thank you for watching, and for all things Sierra, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.